This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson On Demand.
The doctor's on 700 WLW. Jobs, jobs, jobs. If you want them, Macy's may have a bunch of seasonal jobs open, and I'll share with you some other jobs coming to southwestern Ohio at about 11:06 on 700 WLW. Very, very interesting what's going on. On one hand, you've got Issue 2, formerly known as SB 5, going to be on the ballot this fall. And it looks like, according to the new reports, the surveys are that 50% of the people are opposed to it. About 39% are not. What about the rest? Well, they could be in favor of it, like the 39%, but they're just not as motivated. But you do have 50% that are motivated to say we are opposed to Issue 2, formerly SB 5. When you put that with the number of people who are actively campaigning as being anti-tax, anti-levy, the number of people who are fighting against levies, how do you stack those together? You would think that there would be more people that are actively in support of Issue 2. Rich Hoffman joins me now from No Lakota Levy. Rich, how do those things coexist? On one hand, you've got, less people motivated to support SB 5 or Issue 2 now, yet you've got so many people motivated to say no more taxes.
Right. Well, that's because a lot of those people who are motivated to say, who are saying repeal SB 5 or Issue 2, those are government employees and their mothers and their brothers and their friends and everybody they drink beer with. That's those folks. And that's what happens when you let government get too big. There's too many employees that are working for the system, and they're not going to vote themselves a pay decrease. I mean, for goodness sakes. And they're certainly not managing the cost.
I would say you're right, and I think there's another part of it, too. I think you've got a lot of people out there that are saying, that maybe don't have a relative or a friend or whatever that would be affected by Issue 2 or SB 5, that say, you know what, we've got to do something, but no, I don't want to see the police or firefighters lose their job or money, and I don't want to see teachers lose their job or money. I think those are people out there that are trying to be reasonable. What they don't realize, there's a lot of people out there that supported Issue 2 that are reasonable about it. I don't want to see them lose their job. I want strong police forces with protection for the police officers, for the firefighters as well, and I want teachers and firefighters and cops to make gobs of money if they deserve it, if they are somebody who can perform and is worth that amount of money.
And they still can if you manage the cost. But consider how many people are retiring at 55 years old, and how many people are double dipping, and how many people are abusing the system. And they do it because they can, because they've been given the right by union lobbyists. They've created legislation, a state revised code that allows these things to go on, that will not look at raising the retirement age or doing anything like this. And that's what's driving the costs up. And nobody can manage those costs. The only way you can manage them right now is to say no, which is why there's been an increasing amount of people who have come forward and said no. And that's the only management tool we have right now, unless Issue 2 holds up.
Well, and you mentioned those people that are double dipping. Double dipping is really an interesting one, because when you hear the people that run different county agencies or whatever, and they talk about retaining those people, they're right. Why wouldn't you take somebody? You're basically giving them a pay cut from their perspective when they go to balance their budget. They're like, okay, this person is making $100,000 a year. I can offer them $70,000, once they retire the next day, and I get to cut my budget by $30,000 a year, and I get this person with all this experience, whatever. And they're right.
Yes.
But the other part of it is that we're still, we provided all of that money. We continue to pay them that. Yes, we want talented people and people with the experience. But why are you able to retire that early and able to do that when other people can?
We need to revisit that law and look at that and make some adjustments, and that has to happen at the state level. But before you can have that happen, you have to create a necessity. And it's when Issue 2 is being put together, Senate Bill 5, and I spoke to a lot of senators and representatives from this area to help put the thing together, and their thing was, well, you need to come to the State House and speak on our behalf, because when we're talking about these things, we just look at the union lobby. They're up there in the stands. They stare you down. They call you names when you walk by them. So we need help and support. And we said, well, we'll give you that help and support if you'll do something courageous for a change. And that's why this whole age 55 thing, being retired at 55 years old, I mean, a lot of people are in the prime of their lives these days. That's not people have 20, 30 more years of work they could do, and that's the age we live in, and you've got to revisit that. But to pay twice for the same employee and expect the taxpayers to, especially when your benefits edge is 43.4%, I believe it is, over the private sector employee. When you have that kind of edge in benefits, and then you're double dipping on top of that because the retirement age is set too low, and then no one wants to talk about it because of the union lobby. Makes it very hard. They call you names. They call you teabaggers or whatever it is, derogatory to keep you from questioning it. The solution to them or from them is just keep raising taxes.
Now, wait a minute. If you're using, you say 55, you still got 20 whatever years, good years ahead of you working. If you use the Jim Scott scale, you got like 70 good years ahead of you. You know what? I'm 55. I'll work another 70 years. I'm good to go there.
Precisely. And, how many people who are in our age group are going to, work probably till they're 70, probably till they're 80. I mean, that's more. I know there's people out there right now saying, well, I'm 80 years old and I'm not feeling too good. Well, that's changing because science is coming along. There's things that are, we live longer, we eat better. We're not killing ourselves in the field, hoeing to plant seeds for the fall harvest or whatever. We live longer, and that's changing the whole dynamic of how you got to look at retirement. And this whole idea of 55 years old retiring, and I don't mean that's just one thing to look at when you're trying to manage costs in a district. But if you just took away all the double dippers, just hypothetically saying, how many millions of dollars would you save if that was changed? Because that's only been a law in the last, I think, decade. It was early 2000s. No,
what you're talking about actually that touched a lot of stuff. Not just, obviously Social Security, that's also retirement. But when we talk about the post office and that,
yep.
It's technology. It's the new way the world operates that we have to slowly adapt to because we're hanging on to some of these old things. Again, I don't want to see anybody lose their job. Well, I want you to go out and be successful. Why wouldn't I want my fellow Americans, my fellow tri-staters, to have gobs of money? I don't want your money. I don't want your job. I want you to have a job and be successful. But we have to give up our own desires, our own little world, and say, what is good for all of us? What is truly fair and equitable for everybody? That's what we have to look at.
We're in the age of the iPad and the internet and email and all that kind of thing, and it's changed the whole marketplace. A lot of the kids that are going to school today, they're playing online games, and they live in the world of World of Warcraft and these kinds of in Xbox Live, and that's where they spend most of their social time between that and Facebook. And we're trying to educate those people the same way we educated during the days of Little House on the Prairie, and it's just not cutting it. It's too expensive. You've got to. Everybody can have a job. We can pay people well. We can do all that, but you got to manage all this fluff, and that's just not happening. That's why I think you see a lot of these anti-tax candidates starting to say. A year ago, you didn't hear nobody wanted their name in the paper, but this year I've noticed over the last year things have changed. Whether it's economic conditions have driven it, or whether it's just become more fashionable because it's been discussed. More people are now willing to say, "Hey, I put my name next to this statement. I think we need to change some things," and that's what's going to drive change ultimately.
I think a lot of people recognize that too. That's how I started off the top. I think there are a lot of people, listen, even a lot of those cops and firefighters and teachers recognize we have to look at some new ways to move forward. So let's look at it real quick there, Rich. You're talking with Rich Hoffman from No Lakota Levy. You've got 11 area school districts, including Lakota and also Cincinnati, the two largest in the area, that are both wanting a levy on the ballot, that are putting a levy on the ballot and going to want more money.
Right.
You got 11 of them. Right. And we know the stories, the ones that just keep going over. And was it Mount Healthy, the one that put it on the next day? You've also got at least one school board candidate, from many districts that have said that they are on a platform of no new taxes. You've got Lakota and Fairfield, both in Butler. In Warren County, you've got Lebanon and Springboro, Sycamore and Northwest and Hamilton County. At least one candidate in each one of those school districts has said, I'm campaigning on a platform of no new school taxes.
Right. And it used to be just a few people who did that kind of thing, and they were easily isolated and pushed out. But now we're seeing that there's more people who are willing to do that, and they're more mainstream. They don't have to, come out and scream for attention and then get labeled to be radicals. It's become much more of a, more businessmen are starting to step forward and say, look, I've been successful in my community, and I want to bring that same level of expertise to the school board because you obviously need it. If you guys can only ask for more taxes to deal with these problems, then you obviously need my help. And they're starting to emerge. And it's been great.
And when it comes to schools, we really need to focus probably a lot more of this on the administrators and than the teachers. They need to be, they need a lot more of the blame here because they are also the ones who want their little fiefdom there and they refuse to change. Well, I'll give you, here's an example, Rich. How many school administrators does it take to change a light bulb? It takes
about 5.
Yes, it does. It takes 5. It takes 1 to change the light bulb and 4 to stand around and tell you how great the old light bulb was.
Exactly, and then prepare a press statement.
Well, yes, then you need 2 more to you get the press officers to tell you that we changed the light bulb. We're going to change the light bulb, what the light bulb looked like. Then you need the EPA to come in and also tell you what you should do to dispose of the new light bulb. But no, that's the attitude. They're caught up in this whole different world thing, and they're resistant to change. And we have the answers. Rich, I don't just get on and bitch about this every day. This is a real problem. We need to fix the schools. We know we are slipping in education behind the world. We continue to pour more and more money at it. People don't have the money. I want teachers to make money. I want successful schools. And I want the rest of us to be able to save as much money as we can. And the way forward is new ideas. I've laid out some, and I'm looking for more.
Right, but you got to get those folks to come to the table and actually want to talk about those changes. And you've got to get them out of this 1950s and 1940s education mentality. They have to be willing to make adjustments. And if they're hanging on, a lot of those 50% that you cited that are supporting
the new survey,
repeal, those are people that have their fingers dug into the side of the cliff, and they refuse to acknowledge that they're hanging off the edge. And they somehow believe that there's going to be money is going to fall from the sky. They believe the same thing that Obama seems to be touting, that if you just tax the 300-some-thousand rich people and millionaires and billionaires out there, that all your problems will be solved. If
you can take taxes, all of their money and it won't help.
It don't even come close.
It doesn't even come close. Listen. You can tax all of those rich people every dollar that they make every year. Yep. And it doesn't. It comes to about half of what our deficit is.
And that's just for 1 year.
Right.
That just solves it for the immediate problem. And then you've killed all those productive people. Community is built with productive people, and you don't want to say, "Hey, just keep giving it to us so we can keep taking it." And the idea here is to offer education, offer a school for the kids of the community to educate themselves and to thrive. It's not a money pit, and that's what they've all become. And we have state laws that actually protect that infrastructure, and that has to be completely changed. And you've got to start changing it with administrators that will start pushing back at Columbus, and that's what these school board members are supposed to be doing. But it's very difficult once they get in there. A lot of them have all these great ideas, and I've warned some of the Tea Party candidates that are trying to run. I said, look, don't go and don't sell out once you get in there. And you've had a few school board members who are active that are on there, and they get beat up big time on their school boards for trying to go against the grain, because the waves of influence, it's easier just to go along with it because they're not really paid. They're just positions that are attractive because those people seem to enjoy having
authority,
some level of
attention.
authority.
Right.
Yeah, and you can't have those kinds of folks have control of millions of dollars that we give them to administer these costs. So more responsible people are starting to step forward. It's going to take more than that, but in the course of a year of talking about it, like we've talked about it here, and these resistance groups, and saying no to more taxes, it's forcing the discussion. And whether SB 5 or Senate Issue 2 here holds up this time, which I think it's going to be close, if it holds up this time, we've got to try it next time, because the cliff, we're hanging off of it. And the only solution is to have some management control over these administrative costs. And that's how you do it.
Yeah, if it fails, someone is going to go at it again, because we're still going to have the same problems. Whether it's the same way or not, somebody's going to have to address it again. Rich Hoffman from No Lakota Levy. Before I let you go, real quick, prediction. Does the Lakota Levy pass? Are the people of the Lakota School District willing to tax themselves more? Is that going to happen this fall?
God, no. No.
Will it fail soundly?
I'd be disappointed if we didn't increase our gap from last time, which they did close. And mathematically, this is calculated to wear people out so people stop showing up and voting. But I think I would feel bad if we allowed that gap to close. I expect the gap to widen this time because the more you dig into this stuff, the more wrong it is. And to hang on these huge perks onto kids' backs, it infuriates me personally. The real question should be: do we think that we should pay these folks this amount of money? And let's have that intelligent discussion, but don't hang it on a kid.
Rich Hoffman, No Lakota Levy, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you joining me.
All right, see ya.
See you.